October 31st. Halloween. A night of harmless fun, or a night of devil worship? Maybe the answer lies somewhere in between. Halloween, trick or treat. The original celebration was introduced by the Celts over 2,000 years ago and was called Samhain. The celebration marked the end of the harvest and moving into winter. It was also the Celtic New Year and was considered a time between years when the boundary between the worlds of the living and the dead became blurred.
Halloween is a very ancient ceremony dating back thousands of years, and in fact dates back to an ancient pagan belief of a pagan festival of Samhain, or Samhain is how it's pronounced sometimes. It was in fact a celebration of the dead, the end of the year. In fact, the ancient Celts celebrated their New Year on November the 1st, and the 31st of October is the old end of year celebration, much like we celebrate New Year now on December 31st.
The other thing that happened at this time was a sensing that at this time of year, the barrier between life and death, the barrier between this world and the other world became very thin. And because it became very thin, there was the feeling that you could ask the spirits on the other side for wisdom concerning marriage, concerning future, concerning answers to problems. Moving into that would be that the spirits could communicate with you, that the spirits could talk to you, that the spirits could tell you what they were thinking and what they were doing.
But the Celts also believed that not every visiting spirit was friendly, so they would build bonfires to ward off the evil spirits.
A further aspect was the feeling that if the people had died in the past year and hadn't really left this world, that they needed a send-off so they could go to the place where they would be.
They would leave plates of food out to placate the souls so that they might depart back to the realm of the dead. As the Catholic Church's influence grew in Europe, Christians began to frown upon pagan festivals like Samhain.
By the 800s, though, things were changing quite rapidly in Central Europe and all the way out as far as Eastern Europe. And in fact, the Pope Boniface IV was changing things and adapting different festivals to make it meet the needs of the church at the time. Certainly, the ancient pagan festivals were still holding much more of a leeway than he wanted.
The church began to realize that this festival was really still had quite a pull, and especially in the country areas. And so that was when they added such things as All Hallows Eve and All Saints Day.
And All Saints Day was on November the 1st, to celebrate the dead, once again very similar to the old festival of celebrating the dead that the pagans did on October 31st. And in fact, All Saints Day on November the 2nd is the modern equivalent of that.
All Saints' Day then was known as All Hallow Mass. The night before this was October 31st and was All Hallows Eve, which later became known as Halloween.
That leads some people to say that in actual fact the festival has nothing to do with Samhain, but it has everything to do with Christianity and the church trying to bring it in. As far as the name is concerned, that's true. As far as the practice is concerned, that's not true.
So how does a festival that's origins began over 2,000 years ago relate to Halloween as we know it today?
There are lots of different things that we do now for Halloween that go back hundreds and hundreds of years, even thousands of years. Pumpkin carving, the practice of jack-o'-lanterns goes back quite a long way.
The Celts used the glowing lanterns to welcome the spirits of deceased loved ones, but also used them to act as a protection against evil spirits.
As far as trick or treat is concerned, there are two or three thoughts of this. The Irish labourers, when they moved out to America, started playing tricks on people. And so they would go around on this night and play tricks. Developing out of that, of course, came the fact that if you gave somebody a treat, they wouldn't play a trick on you.
The ancients used to celebrate the Samhain festival by fortune telling and going around trying to predict what was going to happen in the following year. But they also went around performing tricks, not nasty tricks, but entertaining their neighbours and their communities. And if they entertained and were appreciated, they were given a treat. And in fact, the origins of trick-or-treating are perform, create an entertainment experience, and then we'll give you a treat. Not what it is today at all.
Masks and people dressing up, again, in the times when they celebrated the harvest back in Samhain, there would be that sort of thing going on. But in modern times, what of course you find now is most of the masks, most of the dressing up is to make people think of the death and the dead and the other side. So you would have the ghosts, you would have the goblins, you would have all of these things concerning the other side. And then, of course, because traditionally so much has gone on with witchcraft, you will have the witches and other things. And so the dressing up certainly has its place in history, but the way people dress up, of course, is now showing how people perceive Halloween today.
So how do people perceive Halloween today? And how much do they know about its origins?
What do you think of when you hear the word Halloween?
I think of like kids and just chocolate and whatever, you know, just trick-or-treating basically. Scary people.
Just a fun time really, I think, for the kids.
What do I think of? I think of supermarkets making money.
It doesn't interest me at my age.
I'd probably take the kids out around trick-or-treating.
Either go into a party or go trick-or-treating.
Yeah, I go with all my friends and it's fun because we hang around, we crack jokes and do stupid stuff and stuff like that.
My parents don't like it because it's like, what's it called? It's like the devil's in it.
Have you ever thought about where the celebration of Halloween originally came from?
Not really, no.
Just one of them commercial things, I think.
I'm interested to know where it came from, but
apparently something to do with the devil.
I've never ever thought about it, never been told about it ever. I've just always, just like a tradition sort of thing.
Maybe burning witches or something like that?
I think it was America. I don't know what the history of it is, though.
as a Christian, I also believe that Halloween has significance going back to medieval past as a historian, and during medieval times they really feared witches, hobgoblins, the dark, and Halloween had greater significance, whereas today, mainly thanks to the Americans, we've turned it into something where we even do trick-or-treat, and it's fun, but it's not fun because surely there's a God in the world and there is a Satan in the world, and we deny that to our disadvantage.
Meet Lizzie and Jessica. They've been celebrating Halloween since the age of 5. They've started decorating the house and are looking forward to spending Halloween with their friends.
If you're trick-or-treating, you always look for the houses that have got pumpkins outside, because then you know that the person's got sweets inside the house.
I think most people go trick-or-treating because, well, just everyone really does it. And they go out and have fun and they want to get sweets. And you just knock on someone's door and say trick-or-treat, and then they'll give you sweets.
Do people get scared when you knock on the door?
Some people have scary things that they put through their letterboxes or something, like hands, to make you jump when you're outside. But yeah, usually some people. We went to a house where they had cold spaghetti, and they made us put our hands in the cold spaghetti to get sweets out. But some people are just nice and they just give you the sweets straight away. I think people dress up as witches just because it's, I don't know, guys. I think people have been dressing up as witches for so many years. It's just kind of like a tradition, because you want to be scary. Yeah. Halloween's all about dressing up scary.
And it's not really embarrassing.
No, it's not embarrassing because everyone's dressed up at the same time. So if you walked out like this on a normal day, you'd feel really embarrassed. But because everyone gets into the spirit of it, it's a lot of good fun. Yeah, I've always celebrated Halloween ever since I was little, and I think my parents did it when they were little as well.
I celebrate Halloween because I think it's fun. It's just nice to dress up. It's like an excuse to dress up, and you know, it's just like a celebration.
when you're little, you always wait until you're big enough to go out trick-or-treating, so you don't have to stay at home and be the one giving out sweets when you don't get any because you're giving them to all the other children. But when you're old enough, you can go out and get them for yourself.
And do you know how Halloween started?
I'm not sure how Halloween started.
They were telling us at school that it started in Ireland, and they used to carve out turnips to like ward off evil spirits or something. No, they used to bring back good spirits, but then it turned kind of bad, and they started to do it to ward off evil spirits.
It didn't used to be like evil and stuff, I don't think. It was like a night when all the dead come back and like all their loved ones come back that have died, but then it turned like all scary and evil.
I don't think it's scary and evil now. I just think it's been going on for so long that everyone's kind of forgotten about the whole evil spirit thing, and it's just a night where you can all have fun and get free sweets.
Most children don't really think it's evil. They just have fun and scare each other as a joke. But they don't really think about the spiritual side of it and stuff. I don't really think witches exist. I don't really think about it much, but I've heard some stories that they do, and there are people that think they're witches. I don't really know much about it though.
What about you?
I never thought that witches really existed. I thought they were something that was in a cartoon, like, I don't know, a unicorn or a dragon. They just seemed sort of like a mystical creature that doesn't really exist.
So do witches really exist, or are they just mythical creatures?
I'm Jeanette Ellis, and I'm a witch. I've been into witchcraft for 23 years.
Jeanette Ellis runs an organisation called Pagan Festivals and is part of a coven. A coven is a group of witches that meet together on certain festivals like Halloween.
For Halloween, the coven will be coming together, and after casting circle and calling quarters, we will be remembering our loved ones. It's our new year, actually. At Beltane, which is the other end of the year in May, it's a celebration of life. And Halloween is a remembrance of those that have died and moved on. We also celebrate, or rather remember, those that died in the name of witchcraft throughout the years.
Henley Street in Stratford-upon-Avon is home to the Creaky Cauldron, a museum of witchcraft and wizardology, which was founded by a pagan called Dave Matthews.
I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Seek the Magic organisation. The museum is quite a family-friendly museum with everything from activities for children all the way through to more spooky stories for grown-ups. And it is something where there is something pretty much for everybody. It's meant to be a bit of a rite of passage, to be honest, and if you're a little bit scared, there are very spooky parts of the museum as well. But in many ways, it's all about enjoying yourself, and people come out either laughing or occasionally screaming because they've bumped into a mannequin or they've seen something that's frightened them.
The Creaky Cauldron is spread over 3 floors and consists of 5 rooms, each with their own theme, including a very disturbing children's nursery and a Halloween history room. Dave Matthews is a pagan and a Halloween enthusiast, but for him, Halloween is much more than scary costumes and free sweets.
Many people believe that Halloween is a celebration of the darkness of life, but in fact it's not. It's a celebration of light and happiness. It is all about good things. As I said before, if you look at the ancient practice of trick-or-treating, which was a positive thing, a way to get people together and communities together, it's a very good thing. Sadly, a lot of what's happened in this country is it's been distorted. The Halloween festivals that we have today very much are based on the American festivals from the last 20 or 30 years. And Americans have it very different to how we have it over here. It's a great community time over there. People go around, children go around, it's safe, it's fun. Sadly, in this country, there's a little bit of a climate of fear because of masks and costumes. But in reality, there shouldn't be anything to be frightened about. If you don't want to have a trick-or-treat coming to your door, put a sign out saying, "Don't bother us." As they do in America, they just turn the porch lights off. No porch light means you're not welcome. Something perhaps that we could do over here.
Meet the Gurr family. Alice and John Gurr are firm Bible-believing Christians who are raising their children in a scriptural way with no compromise. David, aged 8, Rachel, aged 14, and Hannah, aged 15, have a very different opinion of Halloween than that of Lizzie and Jessica.
When I think of Halloween, I think of witches and demons and things that represent evil.
I think of like evil and witches and stuff that's not godly.
When I think of Halloween, I think of witches and devils, and I prefer to think of God than all the evil things in the world.
With Halloween, no, we feel there's nothing to celebrate. As born-again Christians, we celebrate the resurrection of Jesus Christ every day. And I don't see anything within Halloween to celebrate.
I've done some research on the origins of Halloween, and the information that I can find on the internet is that it is a Druidic pagan occult festival. So there is absolutely nothing about Halloween that we would want to celebrate as Christians. It is the complete opposite of everything that we celebrate. It is darkness and we are light in the Lord.
It's not really a question of allowing our children to celebrate Halloween. They too think like us. What is there to celebrate? No witch or demon has ever died to take away our sins.
They don't like answering the door at Halloween because of the scary masks and the ugly costumes that people wear. They don't want to go trick-or-treating themselves, never have done.
There isn't really any appeal for dressing up as like evil spirits and stuff. So
it's not just a bit of fun that you're acting like witches, which is evil, and you're acting like vampires, and it's not godly, and it wouldn't be the kind of thing that a Christian would do.
A lot of the time they don't understand the depth of what they're doing, like how spiritually wrong it is, because witchcraft is a very evil thing, and just dressing up as a witch, I've seen like 6 to 8 month witch costumes, and I think, how can you dress your kids up in that sort of thing knowing what it's actually about?
Children are very vulnerable to spiritual influences, and so just partaking in pagan festivals like this, trick-or-treating, dressing up as witches, is going to open them up to ungodly spiritual influences which could affect them for the rest of their lives. And of course it is going to have an effect on society and an effect on the area, because people are celebrating witches, celebrating witchcraft, celebrating the occult. And we as Christians should never encourage or support that, but rather expose it, as the Word of God says.
Clearly in Ephesians 5, verse 6 and forward, it says, "Let no one deceive you with empty words, for because of these things the wrath of God comes upon the sons of disobedience. Therefore do not be partakers with them. For you were formerly darkness, but now you are light in the Lord. Walk as children of light, for the fruit of the light consists in all goodness and righteousness and truth, trying to learn what is pleasing to the Lord. Do not partake in the unfruitful deeds of darkness, but instead even expose them." And I think a lot of Christians, well-meaning Christians and churchgoers, have been duped into believing that this is harmless fun, where in fact it's not. There's plenty of information on the internet exposing the works of darkness. And as Christians, we're told to expose the works of darkness. So it's far more important to embrace the truth. Jesus said, "If you continue in my word, then you're disciples of mine, and you'll know the truth, and the truth will set you free." So as we spend time meditating on what is good and wholesome, as found in his word, then my children don't want to partake in the unfruitful works of darkness.
The Gurr family use Halloween as a perfect opportunity to share their faith within their neighbourhood.
For this Halloween, we're likely to give tracts, and also we normally put like scriptures on the door and saying Jesus loves you and stuff.
We have done something like put a bag of sweets at the door for any trick-or-treaters to help themselves too, because we don't want to be mean and unkind to these children who are actually quite innocently doing this. Sometimes we have had tracts of Christian literature to give to them. Last year our daughters came up with a fresh approach. They did something called angeling instead.
Well, what we did last year is I had some friends staying over, and what we did is we all dressed up in white costumes like angels, and we went out angeling, which what we did is we took some sweets with us and we went door to door up the street, and we knocked on the doors and we said, we're angels, not trick-or-treaters, would you like a sweet? And offered them sweets instead of trying to take them off them. And we also printed out these smile tracts which had lots of jokes on them, and then on the back it had scripture. And people were very receptive to it, and they smiled just seeing it. And also they wanted to give us sweets back, so we actually came back with more than we took out.
I think it gives a really good effect. Like, people are quite surprised that we're blessing them and that we're not threatening them with anything, that we just want to give to them.
It is a good opportunity for evangelism, and it's a good opportunity for churches to put on parties for children that are godly rather than about Halloween, that are the opposite of what is being celebrated by the world.
Hallelujah Night was introduced at New Wine Church in Woolwich as an alternative to Halloween.
Hallelujah Night is a celebration of Christ in an alternative to Halloween. What we're trying to do is trying to deviate the children from celebrating witchcraft and wizardry, because obviously that's not very Christian-like. We bring the children together for praise and worship, fun and games. They come in at their chosen costumes, whether it be a biblical character or perhaps just a superhero. We also explain to them the reasons why we don't celebrate Halloween, because obviously it's pertaining to the dark side and we're reflecting towards the light. Try to do it in a very childlike way, a very fun-like way, and obviously they're rewarded with sweets at the end, so they don't feel that they're missing out on everything. Children are absolutely excited, they are every year. Parents also very excited because it gives them a chance to bring the children to move away from that night of evil, witch spell, crafts and all sorts of things, to come into church and to celebrate with the church, to surrounding Christ and instilling in them the goodness of being a Christian.
So is Halloween a religious celebration? If so, which religion? And what do the public think?
Do you think Halloween is a religious celebration?
Not really, it's more of a pagan sort of festival, I think.
Remember, it's All Saints' Day.
It's religious if you worship the devil.
It has nothing to do with what is it? The pagans and the burning of witches and that. Isn't it demonic here? Like a demonic day. It's not, we shouldn't really be celebrating it.
It's the devil festival. No one should celebrate it.
Not all people celebrate it.
Yeah.
It's for the fun of it. So do you go to Yeah, for sweets and money.
No, I don't. I'm not allowed to.
It has religious significance for people who practice witchcraft or magic and so on, and certain New Age people believe in that, whereas it's fun, and let's face it, Satan is a great deceiver, so therefore by turning Halloween into fun, then we don't fear it.
Most people feel that Halloween is involved with witches and witchcraft, but maybe don't always realise why. But October 31st, or at least the days around then, are really still in the witchcraft calendar quite important days.
For practicing witches and pagans, Halloween is perhaps the most important festival in the entire year. There are 8 great festivals in the year, and Halloween is either the last or the first, depending on how you look at it. It's often celebrated as a new year, as a celebration, as a family get-together, and it is certainly a way of communicating with the past, but it's also a way of looking to the future.
Although the ancient Celts festival Samhain, which we know today as Halloween, stems back over 2,000 years ago, its pagan rituals and beliefs are still very much alive today.
Halloween is the most important day in the witchcraft calendar. It's the day, probably you would say, of the highest magic, the strongest magic.
There's a very interesting thing. At Halloween, lots of people do the same thing. They try and contact spirits of the ancestors. And by using the same words, perhaps the same phrases, the same belief, the same intention, they're creating something called morphic resonance. And morphic resonance creates power. It's the power of repeated actions, repeated words. The more you say something, the more you believe in it, the more powerful it gets. And certainly at Halloween or the Samhain festival, it's likely that there's a lot of energy around these phrases and sentences as people try to contact the dead.
Many people still associate this event with witchcraft, this celebration with witchcraft, because it is very much a time in the witchcraft calendar. But whether people feel that the things that are going on are exactly what goes on, that is very much open to question.
One of the most common things that's done by witches and pagans is writing messages on scraps of paper and throwing them into a fire or a burning cauldron at this time of year. It's a way of passing a message on to those that have gone on before.
We say that there is a veil between the worlds. So we leave a candle out to sort of guide our loved ones back through the veil.
What witches will do on this evening is celebrate the festival, is celebrate the evening changing, celebrate the season changing. And so there won't be sacrifices in that sense to pagan gods. There will just be a celebration of the season. I think many people have got a wrong idea of what does happen on Halloween in a witch's coven.
It's a time when I have a cauldron in the circle and we put in all the things that have happened to us through the year that we're not happy with about our life.
Lots of people celebrate Halloween in lots of different ways, and somebody such as me, well, perhaps my way of celebrating is a little bit different. Here we'll be having an all-night ghost hunt, so we'll be looking at communicating with the spirits of the past. But for other people who are practicing pagans and witches, they might be honouring their ancestors, getting together with their families, spending time together, celebrating. Maybe not quite as bad as casting great big spells and trying to foretell the future, which is what the pagan ancestors would have done. But what they'll do is celebrate. It's very easy to, using inverted commas, move over to the dark side. You close the inverted commas. But in fact, ghosts and spirits are exactly the same in death as they were in life. One of the worst things you can do, and it's something that I would always caution against, is using a Ouija board if you don't know what you're doing. If you have a Ouija board and you're larking around saying, is there anybody there, then who knows what you're going to attract, and that's a bad thing.
Earlier, we met the Gurr family, who are strongly against the celebration of Halloween. But how do Lizzie and Jessica respond to such views?
We have a friend who doesn't celebrate Halloween, and I think they think it's bad to... She said to me that like her family and her church, they think it's bad to celebrate it because it's making a good thing out of the bad things, and it's like celebrating and being happy about things that are evil and bad. I sort of listen to what they say, and it's interesting, but no one's really convinced me to change.
I'd respect what they thought about not doing trick-or-treating or whatever, but I think that if they're worried about it being like encouraging or being happy about evil things, most people, like everyone, doesn't think of it that way. They just think of it as like a fun night where you can dress up and, you know, go out and with your friends and see everyone. And it like brings the community like together. It's like a night where you don't have to be afraid to be on the streets at night time or anything, because like all the little kids are out with their parents and stuff, so it's nice.
I think if I knew that there were witches that did bad things on Halloween, but they didn't really live near where I was, I wouldn't really worry, but if there was some living around here, then I wouldn't want to go out.
As you have seen throughout the programme, both pagans and Christians agree that the festival of Samhain, which later morphed into Halloween, is very much a pagan festival to do with death. And many of the traditions we see today have its roots in pagan rituals that were performed all those thousands of years ago. With all this in mind, should Christians partake in the celebration of Halloween?
As a Christian, I have a lot of question marks over the celebration of Halloween. As we've already seen, it's a lot to do with the dead, It's a lot to do with witchcraft. It's a lot to do with a realm that is always spiritual. The question for me is that spiritual realm the same spiritual realm as Christians believe in? And by very definition, I would say it's not. Christianity is very clear, and the Bible is very clear, that we are not to communicate with the dead. It's very clear that we are not to worship seasons or things. We're only to worship God. And it's very clear that we're not to be involved with darkness, but with light. And so with all of these things that Halloween stands for, I feel very strongly that as Christians, we should not be involved. We should not hate people that are involved in Halloween. We should not condemn people that are involved in Halloween. But we should be ready to explain why I, as a Christian, cannot get involved with the celebration. Why I, as a Christian, believe that Jesus Christ said, I am the light of the world, not in darkness. That Jesus said that we are to deal with the living, not with the dead. That Jesus said we are to be loving and kind to one another.
The creaky cauldron is purposely set in darkness with horrifying images and figures to give its visitors a truly terrifying experience. But Dave Matthews believes that this is not what Halloween is all about.
A lot of people think that Halloween is a festival of the dark and a festival of evil, and it isn't. It's a celebration of light, the beginning of the new year in the ancient Celtic times. So should we celebrate it? Should it be a bit of fun? I don't see why not. There's nothing wrong with getting together with families and community. Trick-or-treating is a great way to celebrate, and it's not a bad thing at all. People think that it's all about the darkness. People think it's about ghosts, spirits and evil. It isn't at all. Traditionally, it was a time of celebration, and it's something that should be there now.
Halloween, being a pagan festival, is directly linked to witchcraft. So by partaking in this celebration, could you be opening your life to a supernatural evil force?
I don't actually believe that there's a demon in every party bag when somebody goes to a Halloween party. And I don't also believe that children are putting themselves necessarily into spiritual danger when they go trick-or-treating. I think there can be some very clear physical dangers that we need to be aware of. However, even though people don't feel they're getting involved in the spiritual side, what they are doing is saying to the kids, darkness is okay. Witchcraft is okay. This is a night when you can go and scare people. This is a night when you can go and be malicious to our neighbours. And so what we're teaching our kids and what we're teaching our children is something that's not healthy and could have lasting effect. I don't say it does, but it could have lasting effect. And so if people are being taught by their parents, by schools, by scout groups, whatever, at this time of year, that witchcraft is okay, and okay, it may just be people dressed up as witches, but how about those kids saying, what's true about this? Does witchcraft really exist? Are there such people as witches? I know that was somebody dressed up, but is there a reality to this? And then they go along and seek after it. There, to me, is the danger. The people that they trust, their parents, their teachers, others like that, have said, we don't have a problem with it. By their actions, they have said, we don't have a problem with witchcraft. And so, therefore, the child can say, I'm going to find it out. And if they then find out the real, if they then find out the power, the real power that can be behind it, they are being led down a road that leads them away from the living God, not to him.
Alice and John Gurr's views on Halloween have clearly had a direct effect on their children, and it's quite clear that the children are in full agreement with their parents on this subject.
I think that parents need to understand that children are their responsibility and to train them up in the way that they should go. And when they're older, they will not depart from it, as the word says. So it's important that we're training our children to hear from God. And that can only really happen through reading the word themselves and training the children to discern what is right.
Although I don't believe that spirits have that sort of power over us because we're protected by Jesus, I think that it's not wise to go along with it and to like pretend that it's that like you are one of them and that you can like wreak havoc and stuff.
3 John chapter 1 verse 11 states, "Dear friend, do not imitate what is evil, but what is good. Anyone who does what is good is from God. Anyone who does what is evil has not seen God." Could this be evidence that Christians should not partake in such celebrations? Or how about 2 Corinthians chapter 6 verse 14, which states, "Do not be yoked together with unbelievers, for what do righteousness and wickedness have in common? Or what fellowship can light have with darkness?"
The whole blanket of darkness around Halloween, and obviously as a Christian we don't celebrate darkness, we're celebrating the light.
The areas of Halloween are from a realm that is not of God. It's a realm that leads to the evil rather than to the good. It's a realm that leads to the demonic realm rather than God's realm. And so the dangers are not that we know a little bit about witchcraft, not that we've dressed up our kids as witches. The danger is this: am I opening myself to a supernatural power that could harm me if I allow it to take control?